Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream Queen Size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal Queen Size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in on this Friday as we wrap up what seems to have been a very long week. It's been a busy news-breaking week for sure. President Donald Trump told Fox News that he had predicted that Charlie Kirk would someday be president. We have the latest on the assassination of the founder of Turning Point USA and the organization's future. South Carolina Supreme Court unanimously upheld South Carolina's congressional districts that were being challenged by the League of Women Voters as being gerrymandered to favor the GOP. We have the latest on that. And welcome in today because this is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Upstate South Carolina. We have with us this morning Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette and Sheriff Hobart Lewis to talk about what we have planned to show our appreciation for the men and women in uniform.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
As we head into the weekend, there will be a memorial service on Sunday for TPUSA's founding president, Charlie Kirk. And we learned that Erica Kirk will be taking over as president of TPUSA.
We have some breaking news now. Turning Point USA, headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona, has just announced that Erica Kirk has been elected the new CEO and chair of their board. That organization has explained it this way on X. In prior discussions, Charlie expressed to multiple executives that this is what he wanted in the event of his death. When Erica addressed the nation after Charlie Kirk's death, she promised her husband's legacy would live on.
Charlie, I promise I will never let your legacy die, baby. I won't. I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. I promise.
Wow, those words feel so much bigger now in the perspective of Erica Kirk running that organization, Turning Point USA. We'll be right back.
I think that's just the beginning of what we will see from Turning Point USA as they will remember Charlie Kirk. They will continue to mourn his death, his loss, but I think they're more determined than ever to get Charlie's message to as many people as possible across the country. It's been an odd week because, of course, a lot of the news this week has been dominated by developments in the Charlie Kirk assassination case. We've had updates of the accused shooter. We've seen headlines like school administrator who made vile Kirk assassination comment no longer employed. Actress clarifies remarks after backlash over comments on Charlie Kirk's assassination. ABC Insider offers warning to liberals amid dramatic Jimmy Kimmel saga. Of course, Jimmy Kimmel lost his show this week over remarks that he had made. Teachers, coaches, first responders, doctors, nurses, business executives have all lost their jobs over publicly celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. It's just been a crazy, crazy time. But in that, we've also seen a steadfast resolve of the young men and women who will continue to lead Turning Point USA, who will stand beside Erica Kirk just like they have Charlie Kirk all these years. And one thing is for sure, Charlie Kirk's death is not going to stop the movement that he started as an 18-year-old kid. If anything, it has been ignited. In just over a week, since we were all shocked by those images of his assassination, and while many Americans are still trying to wrap their minds around the law, some of the youngest conservatives in the country are already stepping forward to carry the torch. One of them is 19-year-old Brillen Hollyhan. He's a college freshman, a podcast host, and now the face of a new project called One Conversation at a Time. It's a new tour that he just announced. And it's backed by Turning Point USA, by the way, the organization that Charlie founded for this reason, to give young conservatives a voice on campuses where they often feel silenced and outnumbered. Hollyhan says he wants to do exactly what Charlie did best: sit down with people, talk to them, debate them, even disagree with them, but do it face-to-face, not behind the screen. It's something our culture is starving for right now, especially after seeing the violence that ended Charlie Kirk's life. This young man is very dynamic. I met him at the RNC in Milwaukee last year. He told Fox News, if we've learned anything in the last week, is that you can kill a man, but you cannot kill a movement. Now, that's a powerful line, and he's right. Charlie Kirk was only 31 years old, but he had become one of the most recognized conservative voices in our country. And what made him different was how personal he made it. While others were chasing clicks and likes, Charlie was sitting on college quads at a prove me wrong table, looking young people in the eye and saying, let's talk about it. And he would have civil conversations. It would be heated conversations at times, as people would disagree with him and he would disagree with them. Likewise. That's why so many young conservatives felt like Charlie was listening to them, and why his death has hit this generation so hard. Hollyhan actually met Charlie back in fourth grade when Charlie came on his podcast. He laughs that Charlie had big shoes to fill, not just because he was a tall guy, but because he genuinely inspired a generation. And that's the heart of this. He knows he can't replace Charlie, but he can carry on the mission. No one's going to replace Charlie Kirk, but with the leadership of his wife, with the leadership of people like this young man, this Brillen Hollyhan, with the leadership of people like Andrew Kovac, Charlie's longtime producer. We're going to hear more from Turning Point USA. This movement is not going to die. Now, this latest tour is going to be in 10 major universities across Southeast. 30 or 40,000 students each are on these campuses. He's going to Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi. And his goal isn't to yell or to lecture, he said, is to make conservatism feel like a conversation again. It's not without risk. He admits that after Charlie's assassination, the threats against him have spiked and they become disturbingly specific. So much so that he's now escorted by a security detail just to get to class. He said for the first time in his young political career, he actually thought about walking away from it all, but he said, I can't just stop. And folks, these are the type of young people that give us hope. Give us hope that Charlie Kirk's legacy is going to continue. And based on what I've seen this week, I think that legacy is going to be bigger and better than ever. According to Brillen Hollyhan, Turning Point USA had asked him to do this tour. And he says that when he knew he couldn't sit it out, he said, I'm not doing this because it's easy. I'm doing it because it's hard and because it's terrifying. And that's something to think about, isn't it? That's courage from this young man, and it's exactly what Charlie Kirk would have wanted him to do. I mean, this new generation of conservatives isn't waiting for someone else to lead. They're getting out there. They're saying, we will not cower. We will not be silenced. We will be louder than ever. Now, isn't that encouraging? Doesn't that give you hope that these young people aren't going to be bullied into silence? Outside of Turning Point's headquarters in Phoenix this week, people left flowers and signs and all types of things in a memorial to Charlie. One of them read simply, carry the torch. And that's what Brillen Hollyhan is doing. He's carrying that torch. It wasn't snuffed out. That's what the shooter was trying to do, was to snuff that torch out. But that flame is glowing, and it is burning brighter than ever. As he put it, There's never been a more impactful figure for Gen Z, and there never will be. And so to continue Charlie's life and legacy, I'm honored to launch this tour bolder and louder than ever before. And that, friends, might be Charlie Kirk's greatest legacy. That even in death, he's still sparking a movement, one conversation at a time, one young man, one young woman at a time. And we're going to see this explode, I think. We're going to see young people more involved, more concerned about the future of our country, and they're not going to be ignored. They're going to insist that the adults in the room, that we do what's best for this country. And if we don't, they're going to hold us accountable. Again, it is just so encouraging to see people like Brill and Hollyland and the thousands and thousands that we will see in the coming months and years that are taking up Charlie Kirk's torch. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. South Carolina's highest court just gave Republicans another win this week. The state Supreme Court unanimously upheld South Carolina's congressional voting lines, declaring there's nothing in the state constitution that outlaws partisan gerrymandering. Now, the justices said this loud and clear. Drawing districts to favor one party over another isn't unconstitutional under South Carolina law. That is a huge, huge win for Republicans. And it's something that Democrats never really paid attention to back when they had majorities and they were drawing the lines to suit their party. Now, let's put this in perspective. This is the second time in less than 2 years that a high court has blessed the Republican-drawn map created after the 2020 census. Remember, the U.S. Supreme Court already ruled 6-3 last year that these lines didn't amount to racial discrimination. The latest case came from the League of Women Voters, who just don't want to accept that. They argued that lawmakers crossed the line by intentionally giving Republicans the upper hand in the coastal 1st District, the one anchored in Charleston that stretches along South Carolina's southern coastline. But the state justices weren't buying it. Justice George James, writing for the majority, said the state constitution simply doesn't prohibit partisan gerrymandering at all. In other words, it might not be pretty politics, but it's legal. And keep in mind, again, if Democrats had a majority, they would do it. Chief Justice John Kittredge added a note of caution, saying that while this particular challenge didn't work, it's possible a future case could rise that's more compelling, that raises constitutional issues. Bottom line is, though, this case is over. Republican leaders at the State House were quick to declare victory. Senate President Thomas Alexander said that the ruling finally resolves years of litigation and proves that what they've said all along, that the maps are fair and that they are lawful. And that's big news. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey was even more blunt, accusing the ACLU and the League of Women Voters of being far-left activists who are mad about losing at the ballot box. Massey said that if they don't like the results, maybe they should ditch their far-left positions like gender transitions for children and get in step with South Carolina values. That's good advice. Folks, here's why this matters politically. South Carolina has 7 congressional seats. 6 of them are currently held by Republicans. The only Democrat left is Jim Clyburn, who's been there for decades. And talk about gerrymandering. The state legislature has to go to extremes to keep a district that a Democrat can win in because it's just tough for Democrats in South Carolina. The 1st district that was in question, which includes Charleston, Mount Pleasant, the fastest growing coastal suburbs, was the one district that had shown signs of turning a little bit purple. Democrat Joe Cunningham flipped it blue in 2018, which was a very big surprise for most. 2 years later, Republican Nancy Mace, she won it back. And after the new GOP-friendly map was drawn, she cruised to re-election in 2022 and again in 2024 without any issues at all. Now, Mace, of course, is eyeing the governor's mansion. It looks like she's going to be a candidate in 2026. The first district primary is already heating up. Dorchester County Councilman Jay Byers jumped in last week, joining State Representative Mark Smith, retired Air Force pilot Alex Pelbath, and retired Dr. Sam McCowan. On the Democrat side, you got 4 candidates: Robert Beers, Mac DeFord, Max Diaz, and Myra Rivera Vaquez. But they're facing an uphill climb because a Democrat just can't win in the 1st Congressional District. In fact, again, Democrats can't win in any of the other districts other than James Clyburn's district that was drawn specifically for him, gerrymandered for him. Now, you've got groups like the League of Women Voters fuming over the ruling. They argue the court just gave politicians a green light to keep drawing maps to protect their own power. What the League of Women Voters would like is a constitutional amendment to ban partisan gerrymandering. But let's be honest, that's a long shot, number one. But again, in South Carolina, it's just going to be tough to draw a district that favors Democrats. The demographics just aren't there. And by the way, it takes a supermajority in both chambers just to ask voters if they want to change the Constitution, which is likely not going to happen. Even the ACLU blasted the ruling, saying it ushers in an even greater entrenchment of political extremism. I guess they view conservatism as extremism. And Chief Justice Kittredge, while siding with the majority, again admitted he's concerned about where all this is heading, saying legislatures across the country are racing to erase minority party representation, and it's hurting our constitutional republic. And he's right. In some states, they're redrawing the lines. South Carolina could very easily, and I think the legislature could justify eliminating the one Democrat district we have now by way of James Clyburn. Again, if they did what was right, if they just simply drew the lines based on population, there wouldn't be a Democrat district in South Carolina. That's what we need to understand, and that's what we need to acknowledge. The bottom line is, though, unless the U.S. Supreme Court steps in again with a new national standard, nothing's going to change here. For now, South Carolina Republicans get to keep the map that they wanted, the map that they spent a lot of time, a lot of money drawing. And they're making it clear they don't see any need to redraw it. And they shouldn't. As Senator Massey said, so much winning, and we're not tired of it yet. So the message from the state's highest court is pretty clear. Partisan politics, yep, it may be ugly, but in South Carolina, what we have right now in our Republican majority legislature, they're doing it by the book. It's legal. And for the GOP heading into 2026 with control of 6 of 7 seats, it's also working pretty good. For the Republicans, the Democrats need to just know when to shut up because, again, if they go too far, they could lose that seat as well. One more thing while we're talking about elections. What is happening over at the South Carolina Election Commission? Remember a while back I talked with you about the fact that the Department of Justice is asking for states to send in voter data. They asked South Carolina. South Carolina has not sent it yet. The governing board of South Carolina's election agency was removed this week. In a 3-2 split vote, the commission fired Howard Knapp out of a desire for, quote, new leadership, according to a statement by Chairman Dennis Shedd. Shedd also said the decision was unrelated to the conduct of any election in South Carolina. The commission declined to make any further contact, but I got to believe there has to be something that relates back to the DOJ's request. Now, I don't know where Mr. Knapp fell in that, but there is a lawsuit trying to stop the Election Commission from providing the information of about 3.3 million registered voters to the U.S. Department of Justice over privacy concerns. We shall see. On our guest line today, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Joey. it's a good day, right? Anytime you wake up as early as we have to today, it's a great day.
It's a good day, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. Before we get to that, what a week. We've seen a number of college and university professors, administrators, a late-night TV host relieved of their duties due to their seemingly celebrating the assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk. Now, we've also seen some doctors, some EMTs. Doesn't seem to be anybody who hasn't been at risk here if you're posting those types of hateful comments. So let's talk about this, because I'd like to say that these schools, businesses, organizations had just done the right thing, but in most cases, they had to have some public pushback before they took this action. In Clemson's case, it took a letter from Speaker Merle Smith and Senate President Thomas Alexander for them to have a special board meeting. Is it concerning to you that it takes this public outcry for these organizations to take the right to do the right thing?
You know, it's a little bit shocking, but you know, I think what it is, it's over the years, Joe, and you probably saw that. You know, I was talking with the president of Clemson early on in this problem when it came up, and I'm telling you, I think it ties all back into tenure.
Yeah.
And the fact that these colleges become very afraid of these teachers that have tenure and what the teachers will do. And I think you're seeing the dawn of a new day. In fact, I know we are seeing the dawn of a new day. And, you know, I was asked on the record a couple of days ago, you know, did I feel like that would end, you know, college professors having the ability to speak freely and be creative? And I was like, absolutely not. We speak freely and we're creative in the private sector all the time, and nobody's job is guaranteed under contract.
Right.
And I think there's one part, and I wanted to be really specific about this, is we need to now start looking at the kids that sit in those classes. You know, as a mom, I've had now my third one in college, and I can tell you, Joey, for years, from my oldest on down, and with their friends, I mean, it's you hear it enough places. Kids in classrooms are scared to death of their professors, and if their opinions don't agree with them. It's not the other way around. You know, I've heard over and over how kids have to write papers with a tone or a tense that they don't really agree with for fear of retribution, bad grades. And that's what we have to start looking at.
Wow.
Is why these professors have so much power in these classes. We're worried about the professors. We need to worry about the kids.
Right.
And we have to start eliminating professors who don't inspire critical thinking and turn to indoctrination and pressure for trying to change these kids' worldviews.
Yeah. I would never make it through school now. I would be flunked out day one if I had to deal with what the kids are having to deal with these professors now. But you know, this conversation that we've been having this past week after this tragedy with Charlie Kirk, it actually has led us to a much broader conversation that needed to be had as well, as far as just indoctrination, leftist indoctrination overall. Now, you spoke with Secretary of Education Linda McMahon this week about what the U.S. Department of Education is doing to weed out this leftist indoctrination. What can you tell us about that conversation?
Well, you know, the secretary is an amazing lady and just so normal. I mean, you know, she's not doesn't try to talk over you. She doesn't try to make excuses. She's just telling you that on the direction of President Trump and his administration, that they are they have been weeding through grants where grants had DEI criteria embedded in them, and they're getting rid of them. And they're using that money to create new grants that are broader and don't have those kind of tethers to it that people don't want to see in their classrooms. And, you know, they're really focusing on trying to pull up education. You know, it's kind of like parents say, I hear, I hear just people saying it all the time. These teachers are paid to teach a curriculum. Teach the curriculum, and that is it. Yep. If you're paid to teach math, teach math. If you're paid to teach, and I really think most teachers would like it that way. I mean, Joey, I was telling David the other day, I said, I can remember when I was in school, especially like K through 12, I never knew if my teachers were married or single, had children, didn't have children, had a dog, didn't have a dog.
Right.
Because teachers kept their personal lives personal. And I think most teachers would like to see that again, right? Is like have this separation from the classroom and their personal lives, and just be able to have the freedom to teach the subjects they're teaching.
Yep. Good advice, and that's and maybe this national conversation that we're having will get us back to those days, because it certainly would be easier for everybody, but particularly, as you said earlier, serve the students in a better way, because that's why they're there, is to teach the kids.
Exactly. You're exactly right. That's what parents want. And again, I think on a broader level, probably most teachers got into teaching to teach, not to be mental health counselors, not to be their students' best friends, not to do all the things that now they're saddled with doing in the classroom. Yep. Let's create an environment where teachers can teach. And really, I'll tell you, Joey, when I was in college, my best professors, if you're out there listening and you're a professor, the telltale sign for me of a great professor is you can argue both sides of any argument.
Yep.
And have your class never know what you truly believe.
Right. Exactly.
That's how you teach critical thinking.
Yep. All good advice, and I hope there's some professors listening today that will take that advice as well. Today is a very special day, Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. In just a little while, you and I will watch these about 600 or so law enforcement officers come through the line, get breakfast, coffee, T-shirts, and prizes that have been awarded throughout this week. Let's talk about this for a minute, because I know you have been at Law Enforcement Appreciation Day for a number of years now. Isn't it a special thing to see those cars lined up for literally further than you can see to come through the line for us just to say thank you?
It is always a great morning. It's an early morning for us, isn't it, Joey? But
very early.
Okay, because everybody's 6:30 they start lining up, and it's just nice to shake their hands and tell them thank you, right? Like you said, I have made this a priority. I think this is my 5th year that I've been there, 5th or 6th year, and it was. It's always been just a nice time to like you said, give them breakfast, shake their hand, thank them for keeping us safe, especially in the world we live in now. I think it's so important to thank our law enforcement. You know, there's shortages in law enforcement all over the country. Yeah. And the least we can do is thank them for, putting their lives on the line every single day that they put on their uniform and step out of their house. And, we saw in York, Pennsylvania, once again, we had officers killed while trying to deliver a warrant. It is really sad that we have this cultural violence, from Charlie Kirk to what we saw on the subway in Charlotte to seeing our law enforcement. So every time you see one of our brave men and women out there, thank them for what they do. If you're in Dunkin' with them, or if you're sitting at lunch, if you can, buy their lunch. Yeah. It probably, I can't imagine what it means to them to know that they have the support of the people that they are protecting.
Yeah. Well, and I've said many times, of course, we do Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Greenville in September, but every day should be Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, right?
You're absolutely right. We can't say thank you enough for what they do. And here in South Carolina, the governor and I have always really tried to put our law enforcement at the top of our needs list, whether it's giving them the biggest raises in our state's history, or making sure that they have the state-of-the-art equipment they need. We want to make sure that if you want to be a law enforcement officer anywhere, South Carolina is where you pick.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to support them, and that's why another reason I think days like today are important. I've talked with the sheriff and Chief Hallie Thompson. These types of events help the morale. We had an officer tell us last year they had moved from another area. They said, we didn't do this type of thing where I moved from. So Law Enforcement Appreciation Day is going to be a good day, and I'll see you out there in just a few minutes.
All right, Joey. Well, you have a great weekend. God bless. And to all of our law enforcement, thank you. If you don't hear somebody say it every day, know it's in our hearts.
Yes. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the Upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. On our guest line, Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis on this Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Sheriff, welcome. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Looking forward to a good event today, and getting to see a lot of folks and see their families. It's always an exciting time.
It is, Sheriff, and I've been involved with Law Enforcement Appreciation Day for a number of years now, and I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite days of the year because as we're standing there, and we get started pretty early setting up, 4:45, 5 a.m., and in just a while, those cars will start lining up. And I tell you, it's just a real blessing to see all of those law enforcement cars lining up literally at the downtown airport all the way back to South Pleasantburg. And it's just a day, Sheriff, for the community to come together and to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to the men and women in the sheriff's office and all the other law enforcement agencies around the county. So, I appreciate you joining me. Let's talk for a minute, Sheriff, if you would, and share with us from a law enforcement perspective what law enforcement appreciation means to you and to the men and women in the sheriff's office.
Well, to give the men and women that do the work every day in law enforcement here in the Upstate an opportunity to drive through and, get a gift bag, get a biscuit, get a drink, but to see the people giving it to them, and to see, the sponsors and all the people that participate, knowing that they have that community support and what can be such trying times and the things they deal with on a daily basis, and see the smiles on their face. And, a lot of people don't know this, but we have a lot of them that bring their families with them. They may have their wife or their kids, people, in or out the school, like you say, it's early in the morning. And that's the coolest part to me, is to be able to kind of pat them on the back, give them a little praise, talk about the great work they do and how much we appreciate them, for their families to see that and understand, because we forget about the sacrifice every family makes when that loved one walks out the door, puts that vest on, gets in that car and leaves for that 12-hour shift. We lose sight of that sometimes. So that's certainly my favorite part.
Yeah, that's very true. Sheriff, last year, a couple of us were talking to an officer, and I don't remember which agency he was with, but he had moved here from another area of the country, and he was just blown away with Law Enforcement Appreciation Day and what took place. And he said, we didn't have this where I moved from. Is this kind of unusual, and does this help? Does a day like Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, where the community says thank you, does that impact the morale among your men and women?
Absolutely. We do have, if you look back, just talk about that 2020 and COVID and all the things that were going on in the summer of 20 and protests and all that stuff. It was not a popular job to have to work in law enforcement or public safety in any way. But those moments, those lead events, again, to have people come out and let these law enforcement personnel in the Upstate know that this community supports them and stands behind them and stands beside them out here as they do their work, and they pray for them. They know they're thinking about them. You can tell it just fills their lungs up with just kind of a little bit of hope that what they're doing out here is making a difference. And we hear a lot of comments. We hire a lot of folks from other parts of the country that move here because this is a great place, best place in the world to live. And we are fortunate enough to have them come to work here, and they tell us, man, I have been missing out. I should have moved here 20 years ago. So it is important, and it's very special.
Yep. Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis is with me today, and today is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and in just a short while, we will open the lines, and law enforcement from around Greenville County will be able to drive through the downtown airport, get some coffee and breakfast and T-shirts and all kind of prizes that have been given away throughout this week. Sheriff, I've always said that today's great. I love it. But Law Enforcement Appreciation Day should be every day because you guys are out there every day protecting our community. Are there other programs and initiatives within the Sheriff's Office that kind of fosters these relationships with the communities throughout the year?
We do. We have deputies who attend community meetings where, folks in a particular part of the community come out, crime watch groups and those kind of things, and let them know how much they appreciate them. We have our families of fentanyl overdose victims once a year, and those families have been impacted significantly and had a very close interaction with law enforcement. They come out, and it's a time for us to kind of love up on them a little bit, but it also gives them an opportunity to tell law enforcement how much their presence and their demeanor and their professionalism meant to them during such trying times. So, again, this all started, Seabrook Marchant started this at Tommy's Ham House.
Yep.
You would go in there and eat breakfast, and, Seabrook saw it. He saw a lot of law enforcement in there and people patting you on the back or maybe paying for your breakfast. This is how this started, and because Seabrook saw something, recognized something, stepped out on a limb, we have had a great number of sponsors who come out and support this event to make it possible. That's the only reason why we're able to make this happen year after year. And, I think that's important to look at those sponsors who believe in what's going on and believe in law enforcement, believe in the sacrifice and the job they do, is a heavy reminder of how this community supports law enforcement.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Sheriff, because none of today would be possible without those sponsors like CPI Security and Spinks and Bon Sequoia Wellness, Marchant Real Estate. You mentioned Seabrook Marchant, Clarity Law Firm, the Community Foundation, and the list goes on and on. Pepsi of Greenville, Cogdo Law Firm, ScanSource, Hampton Inn and Suites. There's a long list, and I appreciate and thank all of those sponsors for making today possible. Sheriff, law enforcement has seen some tough times over these past few years as you guys have been under siege at times. Do you feel like things have improved? Are we getting into a better atmosphere where the community is accepting law enforcement and showing the appreciation?
I certainly think so. Now, again, we live in a very special place. We have not had the problems some other areas have had across the country. So when you look at a lot of elected officials and community support that understand the sacrifice and the work law enforcement does, we just didn't have the problems some places may have experienced. Greenville's a special place. South Carolina, there's not a better place in the world to live. So I do think things are getting better when you look at our young people who are getting in a career, choosing a career in law enforcement. We're hiring some great folks. Greenville City, I talked to Chief Thompson. Same applies for them. They got some wonderful folks coming to work there. So Malden, Simpsonville, Fountain Inn, Travelers Rest, Greer, the future looks pretty bright for law enforcement here in the Upstate, and we couldn't be more proud of those that choose this profession. And we look forward to it. Look forward to watching them grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheriff Hobart Lewis, again, thank you for your time. And, of course, I'll see you out there just in just a while as we start the lines with breakfast and all the awards. But truly, I thank you for what you do in our community every single day.
Well, thank you for what you do. Thank you for helping us spread the word about all the great law enforcement here in the Upstate and being here to recognize these folks today. We appreciate y'all very much.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.